Hello there. And see this? Bruce Lee. But in this, it might not be in the film because, bear with me, what I'm going to talk about is Dame of Death 2. I did the original one, so why not this one? Dame of Death 2. But in all fairness, people, in all fairness, this might not be called Dame of Death 2. And you're probably wondering what the fuck I'm on about. I don't class it as being a sequel. I'm going to do you a basic story here you may or may not know about Dame of Death 2. Originally in Hong Kong, where it was made by Golden Harvest, originally it was going to be called the Tower of Death. And it's sort of a foil on to Dame of Death, even though it wasn't. Which starred Bruce Lee? No. Because all they did was just do like they did in the original. They just used cutaways from all the Bruce Lee films, had someone dub over his fucking voice. There's your Bruce Lee. Starts off with Billy Lowe, right, from Dame of Death. But as we all know, it was just cutaways of Bruce Lee, dubbed over his voice. There's even a scene, right, I'm not kidding you, Bruce Lee, or Billy Lowe, is talking about fighting someone, and it's a Gene House scene. He's in a Gene House and he's fighting someone, right? That originally was a deleted scene, believe it or not, from the original Dame of Death. And in many ways, this doesn't represent the original Dame of Death. You know what I mean? I look at this as being more of a sequel to the original 1972 Dame of Death. Because it starts off, right, and this is the bit where I don't like this bit. There's a Chinese guy, and he's supposed to die, and he has information, right? Billy Lowe gets the information from the guy's daughter, who works in this nightclub as a singer. Bit of fighting here and there, you know what I mean? And the funny thing is, the one who's imitating Bruce Lee will later come into it as Bobby Lowe, Billy Lowe's brother. And he gets his film anyway. Love the music. It's a bit like when you see in a Bond film. And it's in a lot of the film, by the way. And this helicopter gets a coffee, they're having a funeral, and Billy Lowe jumps on the helicopter, or should I say a stuntman, gets shot in the neck, falls to his fucking death. That bit I didn't like, because it's like, okay, you've just killed Bruce Lee again. And again, there's all real footage of Bruce Lee's funeral. Unlike Dame of Death, that came out in 78, this came out in what, 1981. Bit of 1980, so you wonder by the way, 70s looking souls, and a bit in 1981 was when they was filming this film. This is where they step into it, and now you've got Bobby Lowe. This, I believe, was the first and probably the last film he appeared in. He's not doing a bad job, but there are bits where he does start to imitate Bruce Lee. Starts to imitate him. And I just find it fucking laughable. I find it fucking laughable because it's like, why the fuck is he imitating Bruce Lee? I get it, he's Billy Lowe's brother. Now, the first bit I didn't like, killing Bruce Lee off, even though it weren't him. It was just cutaways of his movies, whether it be Enter the fucking Dragon, Fist of Fury, whatever, right? But then it gets a bit dud. It goes into these tombs to investigate why his brother, Billy Lowe, died. And you've got all sorts. You've got this woman, strips off, takes his tits, busts a lot, and she starts to stab him on the neck with a poisonous needle. And I love it, he taps her arm and says, "What you doing?" Then you've got this guy dressed up as a fucking lion, kills her, off screen. Good bit where in this part of this thing, and you've got lions, real lions on a fucking stage. How the actors didn't brick it, I don't know. There's a lot of fighting in it, you know what I mean? This is your typical martial art films, I love it. I love the over-the-top sound effects, pow, 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 pow. What you always heard in them days of martial art films. Again, the dubbing's not the fucking best, you know what I mean? I'm not going to offend the movie and say, oh, the dubbing's brilliant, the dubbing, top notch. It ain't. But you know what I mean? If you're going into it for kick-ass, it's definitely a lot of good fighting, a lot of good fighting scenes, a lot of good fight choreography. The scene where these two dads stand to fight this old man, and he's dodging and he's turning and he's moving his fucking leg, all that kung fu stuff. So you definitely get a lot of kick-ass. There's a bit though, and I'm going to be honest, there's a bit where it is a bit unpredictably correct. A bit of a, well, what do you mean unpredictably correct, Pete? What I mean by unpredictably correct is there's a fucking scene, right? I shit you not. There's a fucking scene where, how can I put it? There's a fucking scene where the mention of die was a bit of a deformity there. No, there's a bit of disability. I'll say that's a nicer word. But the word they use, you wouldn't get away with now in any film. In any film, you will not get away with the word, what they say. I'm not going to say it, so it doesn't upset people, but it's a word you will not get away with ever in any film nowadays. And I'm watching it thinking, would you really get away with saying that now in a fucking film? But let's say he has one arm and his arm's fake. He's got a fake arm to make it more faster, right? And he's resuscitating that, and you know what I mean, there's a skipper, like I say, a naked woman tries to poison him, she gets killed. And there's another guy who works in this big tomb, gets killed, pretty gruesome death, he gets strangled and gets stabbed by a guy who wears a mask. And again, he's going through tombs here and there, and he's trying to find out why his brother died, and basically it's for revenge. He finds out it's all to do with drug dealers and drug smugglers, and the guy who had the fake arm kills him. But it's funny because you find out his arm wasn't even fake, he had a real fucking arm. So he didn't have no arm, he had a real fucking arm. Where the fuck that come from, I don't know. But yeah, he kills him. And then the guy who you thought was Busey's mate, the one who had the funeral, you find out he's not dead. He faked his own death, and he was just a typical fucking drug dealer. And Billy Lowe got killed because he was getting too into it. Love the fight scene though with Bobby Lowe and him fight. The fight scene is just fucking epic. It's fucking half an hour long. Honest, I could go out with this fight scene, go downstairs, make a cup of coffee, whatever, cappuccino, make a cup of coffee, get a couple of beers, sit down for half an hour, get a takeaway, come back, and that fight scene will still be going on. That's how fucking long that fight scene is, I shit you not. But it's a good fight scene, you know what I mean? There's a lot of turnings, a lot of tossings, but it's like fucking half an hour. He's got to go for this electrical fence before that, and he's trying to toss this fucking rope to get across this electrical thing. Gets tossed that piece of piss. Another guy gets him, falls, turns into a fence fight because he's a fucking dick. And again, you've got the epic fight scene, but then the guy just dies stupidity. He's got a spear, right? He's got a spear. He sees the fucking spear, right? He's going near him. What does the stupid fucker do? What does the stupid fucker do? He runs straight at it. He runs straight at the fucking spear. Anyone in there? But he dies. Puts him in the coffin, walks off. Brilliant. You do get a good ending scene. It feels like a 70s film. It's those little bits of Bruce Lee and all of his films. But all in all, Dame of Death 2, it's not a bad one, but I wouldn't class it as being a Bruce Lee film. Because all it is cutaways of Bruce Lee. It never mentions his girlfriend, who was in the original Dame of Death. It never mentions him faking his death. In this one, he does get killed for real. Or his character, I should say, because we all know Bruce Lee is no longer with us. May rest. But it never mentions any of that. But if you're going into it for kick-ass, you're going into it for fighting, you're going into it for hilarious dubbing and that in them golden days of martial art films, you're going to get it for that. Other than that, that's Dame of Death 2. 2 more reviews on the way. Into then, see you soon.